Hi, I'm Jess,
Hi, I'm Brandon.
and this is In Lifting Color. Woo! You don't have to
Yes.
click. Today we have a special guest, and we'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arielle Sanders. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised. I am a CrossFitter, and most recently, pre-COVID, I competed at Wodapalooza.
Cool. So, when did you start doing CrossFit?
So I started doing CrossFit in September of 2017, I want to say. I had just graduated from my master's program, and I had spent the summer kind of like drinking and partying a lot with my friends after graduation. And then I moved back to Atlanta to start my first job. And my former gymnastics coach, she owns a gym in Atlanta, and she was like, you need to come into the gym and it'll be so fun. And I was pretty like nervous about doing that. I had played sports in college, and obviously I did gymnastics growing up, but the CrossFit gym, just going to a new gym can be an intimidating environment. So I was nervous about that, but I got really into it, kind of fell in love with the sport, started working out a little bit more, started doing local competitions. I ended up qualifying for Wodapalooza on a team of 3 in 2019, and then this past year I competed in the RX women's division.
Oh, individual?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Individual is so tough. I do only team comps.
It is tough. Individual is very tough.
Yeah.
All the pressure's on you. You don't get a break. I mean, team is much fun and just less pressure. It's like the seriousness kind of drops a lot when you do it with a team versus yourself out there.
Did you feel that difference?
Yeah, I definitely did, but I really loved it. It was my first time competing individually, which I think is kind of funny. It's like you pick Wodapalooza for your first
Oh my
individual competition. But it was super fun. I learned a lot about myself and a lot of like what I need to be doing the next time I compete individually. And there was like highs and lows, but overall it was a great experience, and it's something that I definitely want to do again.
Now that we learned a little bit about you, I want to learn a little bit about your experience even in competitiveness or in CrossFit in general or at your gym. What's been your experience with just diversity in those environments? I mean, we didn't go this year to Wodapalooza. Brandon competed last year at Wodapalooza. So I recall a lack of diversity then, but I wasn't there this year. But just curious on what your experience has been in general in CrossFit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a predominantly white space. It's a predominantly white sport, and I think there are a lot of reasons why it's like that. But I've never experienced like blatant racism. But I've experienced like microaggressions and comments about my hair or my skin, or that the reason why I was able to get good at it so quickly is because of genetics, and
oh my God,
just like a lot of,
said that to you?
yeah, and just like a lot of assumptions.
Not about your actual gymnastics background.
Yeah. So, that, I mean, it definitely hurts to hear things like that. But also I've been hearing microaggressions all of my life, and, that's not going to deter me from my goals or trying to take up space for myself. And if at a point it gets too much for my mental health, then I'll reevaluate that. But yeah.
Interesting. How about your gym? Like, have you been at the same gym since you started CrossFit?
Yeah, I have been at the same gym since I started CrossFit. My gym is it's in Atlanta. It's in Reynoldstown, which is an area that I would say has been historically Black. I would say we probably have more Black members than your typical CrossFit gym.
Can you count them?
On one hand, or
I think probably like 2 hands.
oh, that's good.
That's not.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, it's good in the idea of
what's the gym population?
We can probably 2 hands.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, how many members total is your gym?
I also think it's hard because you go to like if you're whatever your class is. Like I'm or like I'm always late, 5 a.m. or 5:30 p.m. So I know those classes. Like I don't know noon. Do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know like exact numbers, but I would say like we do have a higher population of Black people in the gym, but that doesn't mean that I haven't experienced microaggressions or I haven't seen I think I'm privileged because I'm good at CrossFit and people can really relate to that part of me. So a lot of people in the gym, they can relate to that I'm good or that they want to beat me or that they want to know what time I did or they want to talk to me because I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything like that, but I think when someone is good at something and you're excited about them being good at it, like you can look past other things. Like I was talking to one of my friends and we were talking about if she started at my gym or any CrossFit gym and she knows that she wouldn't be like as good or she would just be like a regular CrossFitter, like would she be accepted in the way that I've been accepted?
Yeah.
And then the microaggression thing, just being a good athlete at any sport, especially if you grew up like me and in a town where it's 90% white, you're going to get that because you're the only Black kid that's good at all the sports and they just assume you're good at all the sports because you're the Black kid. Like, of course you're supposed to be good. So, and then it doesn't help that you have a bloodline of brothers that are good too.
Yeah, and I feel like I have never, kind of like you said, I've never experienced like the overt racism. I think I'm all about the community. I will cheer everybody on. I'll be there for your first muscle up. I'll hug you. I'll do all that. And like when I experience the most microaggressions is as it relates to Brandon. Because I think, like you said, people want to talk to you. They want to be friends with you. And then like once they realize you bought in, you show up, like I think I don't recognize it as much. But then when it's like, oh, well, Brandon's so scary. I don't even want to talk to him. He's too intimidating for me to talk to. And like people will say that to me, or they're like, you guys are just so different. Like he's like, I can't say 2 words to him. He doesn't say anything to me. And I'm always like, but so does the other big white guy over there who's working out with him, doing the exact same elite programming, lifting exactly the same weight, just as strong. Like you're not saying the same things about him. Like those are sometimes the microaggressions that I notice that again aren't going to happen to you. Or like, someone saying like, well, Brandon doesn't want to talk to me. Like, I don't know if he does or doesn't, but I don't know if anybody's tried. Like things like that. Like I think it happens more to me in that aspect, but I think it goes back to, do some people overcompensate when they are really good at like CrossFit and like someone wants to talk to them and they're like, oh, teach me how you did this. Teach me how you did that. Like, I want to lift with you. Whereas like Brandon, who's more like, I'm just here to get my workout on and get better. And now it becomes off as, well, he's like the mean big Black guy in the corner that does this and doesn't want to work out.
What's funny is that I started CrossFit as a coach too.
Yeah.
So like my first gym, that stuff didn't happen because I automatically had to engage. So, and all those people, know me because a lot of those people are still around. So those people like will probably say the same things you say when a new person comes around and it's like, no, that's probably the nicest guy you'll meet.
The nicest guy you'll meet most days. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. Now there's been all of the comments and adjustments and the changes in CrossFit, and there's been a lot of talk about why there's been a lot of back and forth that I've noticed, at least on social media, on like, well, why are people so upset, or like CrossFit is diverse, or like just different things, and how has these changes landed on you, or just everything happening in CrossFit as it relates to race and racism and the word diversity, which I think CrossFit is constantly throwing out because it's like a safe word, but that's my opinion. But how has that landed with you as a person of color doing this CrossFit basically daily, like I feel like myself?
Right. Well, I guess I'm going to talk about like the Instagram post that I made about a month ago. I made a post calling out CrossFit on their silence and kind of addressing, like, in my opinion, the contradiction that is like that Greg Glassman like preaches. Like, he always talks about fitness and like solving chronic disease through fitness. But Black people are disproportionately affected by chronic disease. So it's just interesting that I guess gyms and the affiliates and owners and stuff like that are not doing like everything they can to support Black people, I guess. I don't know if that
yes, that makes a lot of sense. I agree.
So it's just been like that was super confusing to me, and then like the silence from all the athletes and gyms, and like they couldn't speak out against CrossFit was also confusing to me. And then like Greg Glassman says something so egregious that like is obviously racist. Like, it's tangibly racist. Like, you can say that is racist, and because like you can see it, it's not a microaggression, it's not a micro assault, it's not like something that doesn't seem appropriate as violent.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
That's when everyone spoke up, and while I'm glad people were speaking up and like saying that what Greg said is wrong, like I'm happy about that, because like, yes, like obviously what he said is wrong, but like Trump also was able to say the murder of George Floyd was wrong. So like,
right,
is it really like
that
big to just be able to say like, what he said is wrong? Like, there were a lot of Black people speaking up before, and honestly what I think pushed Greg Glassman to say what he said. But it's like, why weren't we listening to Black voices before? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't add up to me. It makes sense, and I've been trying to make sense of it, but like it doesn't make sense at all. Like, Elizabeth Akinwale has been calling out race issues in CrossFit, racism that she's experienced, whether it's like microaggressions or it's like blatant racism, like since she was since the beginning of her CrossFit career, kind of. And
anything, like you said, like, yes, George Floyd was murdered, completely wrong. It's totally, there's nothing that you can say that opposes that was wrong. But also the idea that you can't even say that Black Lives Matter, and you have money in your pocket from multiple Black people, not just your elite athletes that are also now paying for, the affiliate fees, but also for apparel, also for competitions, like all of this money coming from Black people, like, then Black lives have to matter, because this is, like you said, it was kind of like, if you can't say that and you can't acknowledge it, then what are you even doing? Because now you're completely erasing and ignoring a whole group of people that have invested their lives and experience into your brand, into your business. And I thought it was just so beautifully written and so well expressed that I think it resonated with a lot of athletes, whether you're elite, masters, teen. Like, I think it was just nice to have that say, like, no, they should say something. Because I think at first I was kind of like, I don't know, it is just fitness. But then I think when you put it out there, I was like, no, you're right. There should be something said, and it shouldn't be so awkward and scary to feel like you need to say something.
The problem is still there to me, right? They still really didn't say anything. One,
right.
Just because he said what he said, there's still other leaders there that didn't say anything still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you're the CEO, but there's somebody that's in charge of public relations and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They made moves, but you only made moves really to keep the business going.
Money.
Like, you didn't make moves because Black people are upset that you didn't say something or that you're not acknowledging racism. You just made moves because all the white people started saying, yo, we're not going to send you our $3,000 or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so it's still like, one, everybody that said they were not going to be an affiliate should still not be an affiliate anymore, because you really don't even need them. And then two, it's like, it's like too reactive. It's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also after making that post, there were a lot of people that were like, well, why don't you just like stop doing CrossFit, or like, why don't you just leave CrossFit? And my reaction to that, or response, is like, that's what people want. So like, and I'm not saying people are like outright telling me leave CrossFit, because they're not, but it's like, people want you to be like silent and not make space for yourself.
Right.
And like, we shouldn't be we shouldn't be like punished for doing that and trying to hold people accountable.
Yeah. And you shouldn't be excluded. Like you said, I've always thought, if people are like, oh, is CrossFit just for white people anyway? And it's like, no, we shouldn't feel that way. Because for back, I mean, now I'm really reaching, but like, schools were just for white people a long time ago, right? Like, Black people weren't able to get education. So then why would we perpetuate this idea that, well, if you don't like the way CrossFit feels about Black people, then you should leave? Like, no.
Yeah, no, I just think that like, kind of canceling organizations and leaving organizations just lets them get away with it. Yeah. So again, I understand the sentiment with like people needing to de-affiliate, disaffiliate, whatever. And like, if a gym wants to de-affiliate, like, great. But my problem with gyms de-affiliating is that they aren't held accountable. So like, they check the box of de-affiliating because what Greg Glassman said is so racist, but then like, what are they doing to address like anti-Blackness in their gym?
Yeah.
They're not doing anything.
Right.
They're not doing anything because they, like, Greg said this, we're separating ourselves from what Greg said because we don't believe that. But like, what are you doing to address the microaggressions? What are you doing to create a safe space for Black people?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I saw a post and someone said that after Greg Glassman said something, said his comment, and then the gym owner said, well, I'm waiting to see what CrossFit's going to do. Like, as if you're waiting for, the top of the chain to tell you how to address racism and anti-racism being in your box. Like, like you said, like, that's within you. Like, each individual owner, like you said, they can choose to check the box or not check the box, or pay their affiliate fees or not. But unless they're addressing racism in their box, or unless they're addressing the comfort of, or how Black people feel when they walk in, then disaffiliating really doesn't matter, right? Like,
right.
You're still going to have Black members, perhaps, like, we don't want Black people to stop doing CrossFit and have this exclusionary mindset.
Yeah. Another reason why I think so, there's always like this, I'm kind of like shifting where we're going with this, but there's always this sentiment, and you hear like Black people don't do CrossFit because they can't afford it. And I was listening to Elizabeth Akinwale's video on race and CrossFit that she made in 2017 and recently reposted, and everyone should watch that if they haven't. But where she says, like, why would Black people pay $200 a month to feel like left out?
Yeah.
And feel like othered.
Right.
Which is a completely valid argument, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you like are going to be constantly experiencing these microaggressions and micro assaults, like, why would you pay $200 to try to fit in or try to like water down yourself to make white people comfortable? And then another thing that I have been thinking about a lot is that CrossFit has very, very deep ties to training police officers and law enforcement. And I don't think a lot of people realize like the history behind the police force. You know, a lot of people say not all cops are bad, which that's true. Not all cops are bad. But what we cannot argue with is that the origins of the police and law enforcement in this country is bad, because the police and law enforcement were made to preserve slavery. Hear about like the night watch and how they were paying, like, rich white people were paying poor white people that happened to, like, I've read a lot about it, happened to have a lot of drinking problems, alcoholism, like, to go chase slaves. And if I was looking at this visual of like the police star, and then like a visual of like what the slave patrol star looked like, and it's the exact same thing. It's just evolved from that. And so when people say like, oh, not all cops are bad, again, like that's true, but like the origins and history behind the police in this country and the dehumanization of Black people, that is bad. And so like when people see the thin blue line flag hanging in gyms, or people wearing a thin blue line sports bra, and like if you see a lot of that and you're Black, like you're not going to want to be a part of a community that has that.
Right. Yeah. So that's really a good point to think about, because I have heard the argument like that, you know, Black people can't afford CrossFit because it's too expensive. But it's like people will pay for whatever they want. Like, people will pay for a good product and to feel not isolated in an environment. Kind of like she said, we'll put that video on our page so that people can see it in case they haven't already.
I mean, it's definitely not true, because there is CrossFit gyms out there that are 100% Black people, and I'm sure
100.
Yeah, definitely.
100.
Definitely.
100.
One in North Carolina.
I think, yeah, Shipwreck CrossFit in North Carolina.
If it ain't 100, it's 90. It's fine.
It's like 90.
I'm sure they're not cutting the cost of a membership because of the demographic of their membership.
Yeah.
Those people are still paying it, and they're paying it, and there's a bunch of them. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
And unless you're used to being one of few, it's going to be like, I don't want to be here. Not because the workout's super hard, but because I feel uncomfortable. I'm doing movements I've never done before in my life. I feel like my coach is, if they're, you know, you're already having this weird sense of like a power structure, right? Like, it's a lot to take in. And then as a person of color, being like one in a gym of like, if you're in a class of 20 and you're the only Black person, you're like, whoa.
But I mean, one of the main, we haven't reached the main question of the potential you feel for diversity to increase with your gym or
in CrossFit in general.
the global CrossFit in general.
Yeah, I mean, so in my opinion, like I know that the like CrossFit and the CrossFit Games are two separate things, but I would like to see more representation of like Black athletes in the CrossFit Games space. And like some people argue, well, like they're not qualifying, they're not doing XYZ, all that stuff. It's like, well, there are a lot of Black CrossFitters out there, and they're not receiving the same like sponsorships that a lot of the white athletes are. And obviously I completely believe that the white athletes have like earned that. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but I think like you get connected to people based on like the circles of influence that you're in. So like if you're in these circles of influence with white athletes that have sponsors, and then your friends start CrossFit and they get sponsored too, it's like, well, the Black people aren't like, they don't have access to that as much. So I think like, and I'm not saying like that Noble needs to pick some random athlete that is not good and doesn't have potential to sponsor just because they need a Black athlete to save face or anything like that. I'm saying like, I just hope that these brands are looking out for like up and coming Black athletes, so that they do have the ability to train. And like I have a full-time job, and then after the full-time job I train. Like I would love to train. I mean, I like my job, but I would love to train full-time. So, or I'd love to have the opportunity to train full-time. And like sponsors make that a whole lot easier. And I think once people, if there were Black athletes at the games, like, or more Black athletes at the games, like people seeing that, then Black people would want to get more involved in CrossFit, because seeing someone that looks like you doing really cool things is really important. Like representation really, really does matter. And then another thing, like I'm hoping that there's some sort of like anti-racism training that is required in affiliates. I'm hoping that there's an anti-racism training that's required in CrossFit HQ. I'm hoping CrossFit HQ hires more Black people and more Black people to leadership positions. And if you don't think that Black person is qualified for the leadership position but has potential, then train them to do it, because they will figure it out. You need more Black people in positions of power. Need more Black people that are empowered, rather than just like, oh, we need more diversity, we're hiring Black people for these like entry-level roles. Because that just creates like tokenism rather than like the empowerment of Black people.
I love everything you just said. I think one of the things, so I've been doing CrossFit for 7 years, and I can literally tell you there's athletes, and I think this was something with regionals, like maybe because these Black athletes aren't at the games, but like all of these sanctionals and regionals, there are Black athletes that are there. It's not that hard to reach out to a Brandon or Arielle or somebody who we see competing on the field and be like, hey, you did really, like, I think back to my girl, Brianna Evans. I don't know her for real. She's a friend in my head.
Oh, I'm really good friends with her.
Oh, she's a friend in my head, because at regionals, like a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be watching her, because she was a Black girl and I'm a Black girl. And I Akinwale apparel, like I literally can name the people that I saw, and Coach Jen, who is like a level 4 in Jersey, like she's Black too. Like I have looked out for these Black athletes as a Black person who's not elite, but like I think, like you said, they're not there, right? They're there.
Yeah, like Bree has been there for a long time. She went to regionals 6 times. She was this past year the like fittest woman in Georgia. So no, they're there. Like she's extremely talented. Like I look up to her a lot. Like
we're out there. Listen, and we're gonna see you there. We're gonna keep watching you. We're gonna post Arielle's Instagram handle on, so you guys can follow her and keep watching her, because she's someone you should watch. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, and we look
Appreciate
forward
it.
to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
And yes.
Thanks for tuning in. Lift and love all day, every day. Like and subscribe.